All right, so now with our chair who is not here today and the group's consensus, I will run our meeting today. So we are officially called to order at 12:05. And we'll pop through and we'll do introductions. I think everybody knows each other mostly, but I think Danielle, this is just your second one, so we'll still go through that. I'm Katie Bell, she, her, hers. I'm the Mansfield Youth Services Supervisor, and this week I am also acting director in Pat Schneider's absence as she is on vacation. So then I'm going to call on Squares, and I will pop it over to our Human Services Mansfield bubble. We've got Kathy over there.
Here in the Human Services, Social Services group.
All right, Henry. Oh, I think you're still on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm Henry. I'm a student at EO.
And Vice Principal Vliet.
Hi, everyone. Danielle Vliet, Assistant Principal at the middle school.
And Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Gerard. I'm from Favor, she, her pronouns, and I'm our family systems manager for the Eastern region and represent parents and youth of Mansfield in this capacity.
And Laura.
I'm Laura Wright. I'm a member of the community and a user of the youth services.
And Trooper Fillion.
Trooper Fillion, I am the Mansfield resident trooper. I work in the school systems. I'm a DARE officer and on the review board, juvenile review board.
All right, thank you all for being here today. The first thing that we have on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the December 13th meeting. So you should all have those in your email boxes. And so we would need a motion to either approve the minutes as recorded or a motion to make any adjustments as needed.
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Is there a second to approve?
second.
All right. So by a show of thumbs, hands, whatever we want to do, are there any? Are we approving the minutes as are? All right, I got thumbs, everyone's got a thumb. All right, so we are recording that everyone has given thumbs up, so therefore the minutes are approved unanimously by consensus. Excellent, that's the easiest part. So then we'll jump over into the Human Services and Youth Services reports and updates. So our biggest update is definitely the staffing realm, and it is a wonderful update and we're very excited about it. So from the Human Services side, we do officially have a new Human Services Director who is scheduled to start with us on February 27th. So that'll be her first day, and Pat's last day is February 28th. So I don't have to cover it. So I am very excited about that aspect, but I'm also really excited about the new director who's coming in. Her name is Allison Maynard. She's most recently coming from Summers Human Services, and I've gotten to work with her professionally in her role in supporting the Summers Youth Service Bureau as well. So she comes in with a lot of municipal experience, a lot of social work experience, and she's going to be a great fit, and we're all really excited that she will be joining the team. Pat is still in her kind of very gracious extended retirement part-time coverage duties through the 28th. She's on vacation right now, very well deserved, but we will be having a goodbye celebration for her at Town Hall on the 22nd. I don't want to get the time wrong. I believe it is at noon. It's from 1 to 2 in council chambers, and it's a casual, informal drop-in celebration. So if anyone would like to come and wish her well as she officially retires a few months late for our benefit, folks are welcome to do that, and we're really excited for her to be able to take on that next piece of her world. And again, very excited that we have a good fit coming in to take the reins and see what happens in the next span of years. Other big staffing updates from the youth services side of things. I know we were able to share at the last minute that Robin Kramer had officially started with us in the youth services social work position that had been vacant since we had lost Amani. We do still have one other vacancy that exists in youth service social work positions, and that's that expanded position that we had gotten added in July. We don't have anyone right now in that position. We haven't been able to fill that in the past. I guess it's about 8-9 months now. I know we have some new folks in HR who are kind of trying to work out the details of getting that position reposted. We had anticipated having someone to start, but they had ended up accepting a different offer just prior to their start date. So we have to kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit for that position. What's nice is that we hadn't really overstretched ourselves until that person shows up on the first day. So we're not too far behind the 8 ball in terms of being able to staff our core programs that we've historically staffed. And part of that is also because we are very excited that last Monday, the 6th, we had our new early childhood services coordinator start with us. Her name is Jocelyn Santiago. She comes to us most recently from the Children's Community Center daycare in town, where she was a classroom teacher. So she's very familiar with the Mansfield area early childhood world, and she's coming into it now to be in that admin role and to do that outreach component. And we're really excited to have her. She's jumped right in so far. She's not here today because her and Robin are out doing COPE orientation day number 2. So that is very exciting. But it's been very helpful to be able to have Jocelyn start while we do still have Sarah in the human services team. And she's been doing an awesome job of getting Jocelyn oriented to the Office of Early Childhood side of what that job entails. So right now, Jocelyn learning kind of all of the different programs here at Youth Services, as well as kind of the scope of work that'll come with the school readiness grant that is definitely going to be picking up in the next month or so. So we're really excited that she was able to start before grant season started for that position. I don't think we could have expected Sarah to help cover that. She's been doing a great job of making sure slots are filled and centers are paid, but would not be in a place of capacity to take on another grant season. So we're really excited for that, and definitely taking a deep breath of saying, okay, we've got this now. There's still a little bit more to add, but we're going and doing. So the staffing updates are the biggest exciting things. I am not quite sure at this point where we are with recruiting the additional social work position, but we'll continue to work with Allison as she comes in and work with HR as they kind of figure out how they're going to repost that. I think we're anticipating that rather than have it go through the panel process again, we're going to do it as kind of rolling interviews, just because that helps us get people in more quickly rather than having a time limited interview window and reconvening panels. So we're hoping that that'll be a help. In terms of our interns, we do have some shifts and change. Sarah Dufresne is still doing her internship role in the MSW program, picking up hours over at the middle school on Wednesday mornings. But our other intern from Eastern, who is a BSW student, is not continuing with us for the second semester. So we've been able to absorb the cases that she was working with onto Kelly's caseload, since Kelly had been supervising those cases anyway. And then Robin has been able to ensure that there's coverage for the 5th grade lunch groups on Thursdays, just because those are a part of the hours that she's over there anyway. So we don't have any big lapses in the service delivery. What it does mean is we are sometimes a little shorter than we prefer for the diversion program, just because she had been kind of filling in as a college-aged kind of person of validation and experience there. But we're getting it all figured out and sorted out, and we've been able to make it work so far. We're still providing all of our counseling services in the school-based capacity and the office-based capacity, and definitely have very full caseloads very quickly for Robin coming in. And that's, a good thing to be able to do, but definitely quick to be kind of figuring out like, can we take anything else on? Then we've got our mentoring programs. So when we last met, we had just kind of wrapped them up the first week of December, and now we are getting ready to bring them back. So we are this week orienting our new batch of volunteers for COPE and Big Friends. So COPE this semester is going to be at the Goodwin campus both of the days. We wrapped up with the first graders completely for their first half of the year, having done the lunchtime and the recess time combined. So they kind of got twice as much minutes of mentoring as they usually would in the COPE program, which is usually just the lunch. So then for this semester, we're adding the fourth grade that we weren't able to do in the first semester on the Mondays, as well as the Mondays. We're also splitting the second grade into 2 groups so that they'll have a smaller ratio of mentors to youth for the second half of the year. And that way we're able to have 2 lunch waves back to back. So our mentors are really being efficient with their time, and it's meaningful for them to be out for that hour of work directly with the kiddos. We did split the second grade classrooms by which classroom they're in. So teachers only have to keep track of which COPE day is their classroom's COPE day, even though it might not be the same for each second grade teacher, but we were able to do that from a number wise standpoint to hopefully make it as smooth as possible. And then the Tuesdays will be the second half of second grade and then the third graders. And the third graders won't have had any changes to their schedule, but some second graders might have had a change to their COPE day. So those programs, like I said, we're doing those orientations this week. We did our first orientation yesterday for our Monday volunteers. Robin and Jocelyn are doing our Tuesday volunteers for COPE. And then later this afternoon at the middle school, we will be volunteer orienting all of our Big Friends volunteers. And all of those programs will be getting started up, not next week, because that's the February break for the school, but the week of the 27th and 28th. So those programs will go into full swing then. We are going to have a little bit of a shorter round of COPE this year, just because typically we go just past the April vacation, but with the elementary school transition into the one school, we're just going to end the week before April vacation and have that closure then. So we're not trying to do too many millions of things and potential changing schedules, and just knowing that the first few days of coming into the new school building are going to be exciting in their own right. And we're excited for them to be able to get into that new school building for this year. Big Friends will still go the 1 week after the April vacation, which is what we would normally do for them. So they'll still have that additional week of mentoring, but for the elementary school COPE program, it's going to be a little bit shorter than usual. Just for this year with all the transitions. But we've been really excited to have a lot of returners come back for our volunteer work, which is really exciting. It tells us that they really liked the program last year, because volunteers don't come back if they don't enjoy themselves. So they're really excited to reconnect with the kids. They're really excited to reconnect with us. And then we're also in the process of planning our volunteer recognition event, which is exciting because we haven't done that in person since 2019. So I will also then have you guys put on your calendars as our wonderful volunteer of youth service advisory board members, that event is going to be held on Wednesday, April 26th. At the Mansfield Senior Center from 5:30 to 6:30, and you will all receive probably very fancy formal invitations from me. And by very fancy, I mean they're going to be like kitschy, and it's going to be great, and we're going to be so excited about it. And we're gonna have good food, and we're gonna have a nice celebration to really recognize all of the hard work that our volunteers have put in to this year. So please do save the date for that, and you will get official invitations as we get closer. All right, next on our activities report. So our social skills group that Kelly had been running at Goodwin wrapped up before the winter break. And, we're waiting to hear back from the Goodwin team if there's anything else that they would like to have get started in that interim, especially now that we've got a little bit more flexibility, that Kelly isn't having to help me cover COPE now that Robin is here. So we're kind of working with the schools to see where there might be needs that we can meet now that we're a little less strapped for staffing. And so kind of figuring out what that collaboration will look like in the midst of all of the world of transition and the recognition that there's really not a ton of space in the elementary schools right now with the consolidation where it is. So if it's not something that we necessarily connect to in the next couple months, it might be something that we're able to connect into once they're done with that move and have a little bit more of an idea of what their space is. But we'll keep working with Principal Rodriguez and the team with that. Our My Pride group continues to meet. We're still on the second and fourth Mondays. We're in a new space, which is actually really exciting because the robotics club is back. So we had been using the robotic classroom back in the portables, but they are just getting started for Q3 for the first time since before COVID. And the middle school was gracious enough to offer us a space in the library for that after school time, which is infinitely cuter than the robotics classroom. And the kids are really excited to be in that space yesterday. It is funny because like it is the library, but they are not quiet, and it's okay because it's not technically a library when we're in there. But we were able to kind of pick their brains on some of the feedback that the library staff wanted on the Rainbow Library location and positioning, as well as kind of keep moving them along in their planning for the year on what projects they want to do, and get some votes on pins and t-shirts that they're wanting. And my Outlook's reminding me that like we're having a meeting right now, which is very kind of my Outlook. So they're excited for that. They're just excited to get together and be in each other's space. And they were all really excited to have gotten to go skating over the weekend. So with some of our grant money, we were able to help sponsor attendance for, I think, about 20 tickets through the PFLAG Tallinn Mansfield fundraising event at Rana Roll, the Love is Love roller skating on this past Sunday. So I know our kids all had a blast, and I was excited to be able to coordinate with Lisa Day Lewis of that new PFLAG chapter, and kind of to know the wings were back in the world for photo ops, and all of the pins were back in the world, and just being able to celebrate Pride year round, which is really exciting. And then I know I have coming up the Connecticut Pride Summit at the end of the month, which is being held both virtually and in person down in Waterbury. So I'm going to be attending virtually to kind of see what some of the different Pride celebrations throughout the state are going to look like this year. If there's any themes that some of those groups are working on together collaboratively, and kind of doing that linkage of service of the themes that we really want to celebrate and look at this year. Last year, we really looked at how could we integrate affirming communities of faith, and it was really cool to be able to have a local faith based organization there at Pride with a table who is excited to be there. And I know they play a big part in the PFLAG chapter here as well. So it's really great to see that integrate into the community. And then we're still kind of working with the downtown partnership as they're working on their restaffing for their events coordinator to figure out exactly what Pride in Mansfield is going to look like this year. We do have a tentative date of June 9th, which is Friday. And, you know, we're really excited for that. We're figuring out, you know, what's the cool movie to do this year? And, you know, can we get the coolest movie, or do we have to find a different, like, second coolest movie, depending on what the distribution rights of things are. But we are getting that sorted out and figured out, and looking forward to that. In terms of youth diversion update, we have pretty consistently had most of our circle spots filled. And it's great that we exist, because we can tell with the numbers that we're seeing that there was a need previously, and now we're happy to know that we are meeting that need and doing that kind of growth and collaboration and problem solving that you do the first year that you run a program, to kind of figure out how to make processes as smooth as possible. We didn't have any circles in December, and it wasn't because we didn't have any referrals. It was really based around having a hard time connecting to some of those referrals in that month. But we're, I think since we last met, have had 4 circles, and I believe there were 3 Mansfield cases and 1 Ashford case. So we've been kind of using the system where whoever the case manager is for the given town is the one running the circle, since Sarah is no longer a part of the WAM RDT. So I think that is my big long list of program updates. Does anybody have any questions on what youth services is up to? Excellent. I get to stop talking for a little bit, and I like that for me. So next up on our agenda, we have sector reports, where you guys tell me what you guys are seeing in your worlds, in law enforcement, in parenting, in high schooling, in middle school administering, in working with youth and families and human servicing, and I get to listen.
I'll go. Not much has really changed since the last time we met, as far as like some of the later middle school parents, early high school, really struggling with like substance use and how to talk with their kids, and to get treatment. I know we talked about that last time, but that's been pretty consistent. And the other thing that's been huge, for elementary school age kids is anxiety. Parents are starting to notice it more, an increase, in trying to avoid school, avoid things that are making them anxious, and just an overall increase in anxiety. And then from the youth side, from what I'm being told, and how much to actually share of that, but really just substances are still, an issue among their peer circles, and being able to stand their ground when they don't want to partake in what they're partaking in, and the struggles that come with that, and the impact it has kind of as they navigate school. So those are just the things that I've been from between families and youth, are telling me that is happening.
Thank you.
So I can follow that. I wanted to make a note that the Dare Good Decisions program is going to be starting next week. So we'll be doing classes. I'll be doing classes on Fridays. So I think they grouped the fifth graders into teams. So I'll do 3 classes a day every Friday for about 10 weeks. It's a 10-week program. And we're looking into hosting a presentation as well for parents and faculty and anybody that has questions about the DARE program and what it is that we are teaching the children. It has changed over the years. It's more of a curriculum-based program, and it's more so based on making good decisions. So pretty much everything, Lisa, that you were mentioning about, what do I do when I'm in a situation that, I don't know how to respond, or I'm feeling pressured. It's a lot about peer pressure. It's about tools that you can use, that the child can use to try to, counteract those stresses, people to turn to. And it's very active and very fun. And I think that with time, hopefully we'll see some change with that. And my goal is to make this a very big DARE community, to make it so that, that's the cool thing to do, and not the vaping and not the drugs and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to gather whatever resources I can and push through that. I know it's going to be a big adjustment for the first couple of years, but I'm hoping that we can really succeed with that and just help these kids. That's what I got.
Okay. Along the same lines of that, one of the things that Trooper Fillion mentioned was that, social peer pressure and how that's affecting students. So, one of the big things that we see often is social media and factors outside of school and how they're affecting kids in school. And so we've seen more and more cases in regards to that. And due to COVID, the school previously had been having yearly online safety presenters come in for different grade levels. That kind of got paused because of COVID. So we're bringing that back because we see that as a need, and we're opening it up to all the grade levels, since kids are had missed it in previous years. So it'll start with smaller little groups with 5th grade, and then there'll be a bigger presentation for the upper grades, but with the focus of just on how to use social media, the dangers of social media, the things you put out there. And our goal is just to, attack this at all different angles. So we have small group lessons in our SEL class that we have on Friday mornings, and then we'll have these bigger themes that we can pull from this presentation. And we think that'll be a big benefit. We're really seeing an increase of a lot of the things that happen at school are a result of something that happened online over the weekend. The first few weeks after winter break, a lot of the things we were tackling happened over winter break, all online. And then that leads to the peer pressure, and it just kind of goes from there. So, and that proactive approach and seeing this trend, we're hoping that's a good starting and jumping off point for us to continue it.
Now, will you guys, I'm gonna ask a question that like you might get mad at me for. Are you guys gonna talk about like the legality of sexting and being a minor? Because a lot of our kids don't know that they can get charged with child pornography, and that is such, unfortunately, an earlier risk than any of us want it to be.
So I know that we're bringing in Officer Driscoll, and having had him present previously, I do believe that came up in the presentation the last time I saw him, it was quite a few years ago now, but I would assume that that's still a part of it. But definitely something that if he isn't bringing up, we can explore as well. But typically in his previous presentations, I've seen him explore that.
That's something that I can look into too, to assist with a presentation for that, being that I'm with the schools too, and that way if anybody has any questions, you know, I'm close by and they can talk. To add on to that as well, the DARE State of Connecticut, for DARE, we have a presentation that we also offer on social media, the subject, and for parents. It's for parents and social media. It's a very great presentation. Catherine, Lieutenant Cummings usually does it. But our new DARE coordinator can do it as well, including myself. And it's more so it subjects the different apps, how the parents might think one thing, but the reality is another. And it just kind of opens that up to things like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and it shows you all these stuff and lots of statistics on it. Even there's applications out there that store photos, right? But it looks like a calculator. It's not a calculator, it's a photo. A lot of parents don't know that. So we can identify some of those things and give some good resources as well. So it's a very good presentation that we have, that maybe we can add that as well for the parents. So we can, again, attack it from all angles. So that way the parents are aware too.
Yeah, that that sounds like a great program too. I think the more that we can throw at people, and that did remind me that I did neglect to say that we're hoping to do a parent night with that on the same day as well, from those particular presentations, but we are looking at other, like, we want to do more. So that is great to know. I'll bring that back to the team.
And I see Laura's hand, and I'm going to jump in real quick before I forget. We do have a Hidden in Plain Sight booked on April 19th. So we'll have another parent education night on what to look for in your young person's room that might point to signs of not making good choices with substances of all kinds, including alcohol. And we might be doing some partnership with Eastern Highlands as well in that, with potentially some opioid Narcan training stuff. So Laura, you had your hand up.
When my kids were coming up through the middle school and all that, the programs for the parents were also run with the library, the public library. So are you guys reaching out to the public library for all of these various resources?
This particular one, I think, has been an ongoing offering through the school. I can follow up to see the connection with the library and the history there, and see what's available, what, again, more we can just add. I believe this is being run just through the school, is to my knowledge right now, but I can follow up on that.
I just know that they had, well, as a librarian, not currently employed as one, but we got training in children accessible sites that were actually safe for kids. And I know that the programs, the 2 years I went to it with the library, were very well run. So.
I know for our Hidden in Plain Sight training, once I'm ready to start pushing the publicity out for it, we're going to be hosting it at EO Smith, which is nice because it makes it accessible regionally. But I know I always tap the library to help me get the word out. And Leslie over at the library is amazing at information sharing. Their social media gets so much traction with not just Mansfield families, but other families as well. And they're very supportive of anything that we're doing with prevention as well as harm reduction. Like Leslie is a big proponent. We were bringing through the opioid mini grant with Narcan training and things like that. So she's definitely an amazing resource in this town. Their whole department is. Any updates from the youth world, Henry?
Yeah. I think well also just to talk about the social media presentations. I remember those from when I was in middle school. I think those were great. I'm glad that they're coming back. Because I think everyone could use them. I I I think even at the high school level, people still tend to make poor decisions in that regard. And then for substance use, I think it's still an issue at the high school. Um, but I've noticed that a lot of it is from the younger classes. I think the senior and freshman class I think are probably the best. But I think the sophomore and junior class use the most substances in general.
I'm trying to do the mental math of like where that grouping of students might have been during COVID, and if they might have been kind of a grouping of students who missed out on some of that prevention education that you guys would have had, and then the younger grades would have gotten caught up with. And I think certainly we're all going to be looking for the next 20 years at what are the trends of what happened during those 2.5 years of weirdness, and how has that impacted folks. Any other updates from kind of your guys' world and what you're seeing as the ongoing issues?
I had a recent exposure to the drug information at the high school. And I'm wondering, Henry, especially, is the school discussing with the student body the dangers of the drugs that are actually circulating?
Definitely not with the entirety of the student body. I believe that if a student were to get caught with certain substances, they would then be educated more about the dangers that come with that. But as a whole, no. Outside of you're required to take health class, and so we cover it there. But health is I don't think it's really enough. We spend about 2 weeks over the course of our 4 years here actually talking about that.
That is good to know that it's not a very big topic, and you know, hearing that it's not a globally informed moment, but it's kind of like once you get caught, they're having those conversations. That's a way to go upstream with problem solving, is kind of seeing if we can get a little bit more global education out there so everyone does understand the risks of use and all of the various substances that are out there, what you're intending to use, and also what you end up using if you didn't intend to use something that has something else in it. And kind of recognizing that there's some catch-up work to do with making sure that all of our young people have that information so that they can make good choices. Because even if they know exactly what it is they're using, they might not know that, the longer you delay use, the less impact it has on your brain. So even if you can go from experimenting at age 15 and waiting until like it's legal for you at age 21, the neurological impact on that is actually really incredible for the developing brains, just because it's such a time of huge brain development, and kind of looking at how can we get that information to kids so they can make good choices. I like brains. I'm gonna muddle with that one a little bit. And then people get sick of me like talking about prefrontal cortices, but like I do it anyway. So that is good to know. I know in the past in the Connecticut Youth Services world, we had a really great speaker come out to one of our annual conferences, Ruth Pody, and she does amazing presentations. I don't know if she's back to in-person presenting again, or if she's still kind of only doing virtual work, but she specifically does that neurological component of like, here's what happens to your brain when you use at, age 12 versus age 15 versus age 18 versus age 21 and all of the different impacts it has. So it really does come in from kind of that information perspective, but then it also is kind of that harm reduction. It's instead of telling an adolescent, don't you dare do this, it's here's what can happen. And here's the information you need to make the choices, because ultimately you're going to be the one in the moment making the choice. You're not going to always be with your grown-up who's going to tell you if you do the marijuana, bad things are going to happen to you, don't you dare. It's really about kind of you're going to be the one in the position to make a decision, and you want to make sure that our kids have all of the information they need to make those helpful decisions. So I might kind of see if Ruth Pody is back in the mix, and she might be a really great speaker to kind of bring in the next, whenever she's back to presenting, because she was super engaging, and like she can actually target this for middle schoolers. I've seen a video of her presenting to young people. So whether it's a middle school or a high school presentation, she was really great and really engaging. So we can kind of look to see if that might be an opportunity in the next few months to next few years, knowing that the work of prevention is not immediate, but if we can get kind of upstream from responding after the fact, we start to make a bigger difference. So thank you guys for that. Any other updates from your guys' world and what you're seeing in your roles? All right, I'm going to briefly touch on our new business, and it's really kind of more like a frustrated, hey, heads up. So I don't think any of you guys were Laura, you might have been, when we worked really hard to revise the Youth Service Advisory Board composition, structure, and appointment process, because it hadn't been revised since like the 70s or the early 90s, and there were a lot of questions, and we worked really hard. We came up with this great thing that we all agreed on, and it was wonderful. And then the town manager at the time, who is no longer the town manager, said, I'll take care of it and present it to town council. We have been informed by the town clerk's office that those changes were not actually made official in 2019. So we have to remake them official. So what we will do, and we're not going to get started on it this month, but what I will do after this meeting is I will send out the documents that we came up with for you guys to look over in the next month, to kind of see, like, does this still feel like the way that we want to do the slot attribution and the appointment process? And then what we'll do is we'll talk about it as a group at our next meeting, to see if there are any changes that we want to make, if we have any other ideas, if we have any tweaks and changes, because now is the perfect time to make changes if there are any. But it's also a perfect time to say, yeah, like, we got it right the first time, we're still good. And then we can take that and I can present that to the committee on committees and get it officially rubber stamped, because it turns out all of the things that we thought were rubber stamped from 4 years ago are not, which I was very happy to find out I was not. But it is an easy enough process to go back to. So that is just that heads up of I will be sending out those documents after this meeting for folks to take a peek at, and just kind of for those of you who weren't here, what we talked about doing is when we have new members join, they fill a specific slot. Those slots are dictated by our grant requirements. So right now we had suggested that it be a board of 7 that meets our sector requirements for our LPC grant, as well as our Youth Service Bureau Enhancement Grant that we get through the Department of Children and Families. And then there is an option for the Region 19 Board of Education to also appoint a member. They haven't taken us up on that in a while, but I'm curious if that might shift and change as we're expanding services to the E.O. Smith community, both with the RDT that's already ongoing, but then once we do hire the new position in. And then the way that we kind of determine that, there are some positions that are made by appointment. So the Board of Ed positions are made by appointment of the respective superintendents. The law enforcement representation is made by appointment by whoever the ranking officer is in the resident state trooper's office. And then the rest of the appointments go through mutual approval by the board and the human services staffing. So we kind of make suggestions on who would be a good fit for the slot requirements. So it's an eligible service user in town. It is a provider of services to youth and families in town. I think and then a youth under the age of 21 in town are the ones that are non-direct appointment positions. So what we do is we have historically, since we thought we had made it official, but historically invited those individuals to come and meet the board, learn about the board, make sure they feel like they would like to serve on the board, and then have it be a mutual approval process of the staff as well as you guys as board members. So that is kind of the gist of the changes that we made. It's written out in very fancy town council language, but that is kind of what we had proposed be the case. And then the board had done its appointment process through the town manager's office rather than the committee on committees. And that was the recommendation to continue because it can expedite the process a little bit more. But if folks were wanting those appointments to go through committee on committees, that could be something that we look at changing. But we can all kind of talk about that a little bit more at the next meeting once you guys have had a chance to kind of look through the documents and parse them. But that is the common parlance of what we said would be a good idea. And then we can kind of reconvene and we'll put it back on the agenda for next month once we've had time to kind of look through everything and brainstorm if there's anything different that we want. Because again, like I said, it doesn't have to be the way it always has been, even though it seems to be working. If folks have new ideas, this is actually an opportunity to add those new ideas. So we like that. That is my end of new business. Does anyone else have any other new business or other business to add to the agenda? Okay, so then we did not receive any public comment. So our next order of business would be for someone to make a motion to adjourn with the recognition that our next meeting is March 14th, so a month from now.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Trooper Fillion has seconded. All right. Well, thank you guys. We are officially adjourned, or yeah, we seconded the motion, so I don't think we have to vote on adjourning. I think we just adjourn. So we are officially adjourned at 12:48. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys as always for your insights into the parts of the world that you work with that we also work with so that we can kind of figure out our linkages and partnerships and being a part of the work that we do. So thank you guys and we'll see you next month.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.